Hello everyone. This time it's a demonstration using watercolour on the familiar subject, the old boots. I've done several using oil-based oils. Now I'm going to give it a go using watercolour. I've already got them mixed up, trying to keep the colours as limited as possible. Remember, this is just practice. It's not intended for an exhibition or to display. But to continue this journey down the road of working into semi-abstraction and then finally abstraction. So it's further practice. So what I'm going to do first of all, of course, is roughly sketch up the subject. If you're unused to working loosely, use two pencils together, as I'm demonstrating here. Hold them loosely, ensure that you get the correct contact. Don't put them both together evenly, otherwise you'll be working very vertical. So just get the right balance. Okay, so very quickly, I want to make this as short as possible. So sketching up the old boots using the two pencils to ensure I get a loose drawing. There we go, boot number 1. It's not critical that I get an accurate drawing, as you know, but as you can see straight away, I get a loose drawing simply by the fact that I'm using two pencils together. I just put a bit more pressure on them so you can see the lines more readily. And as I keep reminding you, I'm working semi-abstract. So this takes the pressure off you from having to draw. So there's boot number 1. Go on, boot number 2. I'm working, by the way, on lining paper, and because I'm just practicing, it's not stretched. As you know, for the best results, you are best to stretch paper, but that's if you're going to frame it and exhibit it. So as you can see, I'm not going to spend too much time on the sketching. There we go. So just a rough outline, and there's a loose drawing. I've got my colours mixed already. Just quickly, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, gamboge yellow, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue to give me grey, a red, and one of my favourite greens, cerulean green. And really it's the way I go. I don't want to keep this too long. Now, what do I do first? As you know, there's several techniques with watercolour: wet onto wet, wet onto damp, or dry rather, I should say. Doesn't really matter, just follow your instinct. So I won't actually dampen it, I just go straight in wet onto dry. Where do I go first? I'm going to time limit myself, so I want to complete the whole thing no longer than 15 minutes. So here I go for the predominant colour first, using the burnt sienna. And trusting your instinct, just have a go. Keeping it loose. There we go. And I just glimpse from time to time to the picture. I can do something similar now on boot number 2. With watercolour, as most of you will know, it's knowing, of course, when to put the next colour down so that it doesn't become a mess. Yes, work light to dark. Just continue working away. You have to remind yourself that you're trying to work semi-abstract. Regarding the background, I haven't given the background any thought really, so maybe I'll ignore the background for the moment. Oh dear. I'm quite happy. The paint is quite damp around it, so I'm quite happy for the colours to run together. And remember, I got to keep telling myself I want to work semi-abstract. I don't want a photographic version here. Just take chances. I've not used masking fluid at all. Regarding the background, I don't know, maybe I just take some ultramarine blue. Now, once again, it is damp. So if I put the background on, I know the colors are going to run together. That's fine. Sometimes that's what you want that to happen. Or I just put a bit more flat. One of the exciting things about watercolor is a happy accident, as we term it. And don't be afraid to take chances with happy accidents, because often they will give you tremendous results. So as you can see, I'm just doing some background, bringing it down to the foreground. No particular plan, just half a plan in my head. What I might do in a moment is dry, take the hairdryer to it before I work on it again, because I don't want it to become one messy image. So if I now just pause. So I've just taken the hairdryer to it, still wet in one or two places. The paint is pooling in one or two places also because it's not stretched. Now I want to come back and just start to define some of the areas, but without being too precious. So if I come back here, the side of the boot, I'm using the burnt sienna here. Following the curve of the instep. And even with the experience I have, I've still got to keep warning myself not to produce a photographic version. Maybe a larger brush. I'm going to take a larger brush. I can cover the area more quickly. There we go. The light, by the way, is coming from the left. Burnt sienna still. And remembering, I want to create a semi-abstract piece here. Now I'm taking some grey that I mixed earlier. Once again, putting the emphasis on spontaneity, following my instinct. The light is coming from the left. And remember again, I'm trying to work here semi-abstract. Bit more here. So as I keep emphasizing, try to follow your instinct. It needs to dry off a little bit more. I'll leave the white of the paper to represent the highlights hitting the boot. And I keep reminding you, this is, again, just a practice. I'm going to pause again, take the hairdryer to it, and maybe just indicate a bit more detail. So I just mixed up stronger grey. I want to introduce the shadow at this point. Maybe if I just dampen paper, just a touch, where the shadow was coming to. So I'm just dampening here in the foreground. Now I take the colour to introduce some shadow. A bit on the weak side, so once again, just strengthen it. There we go. Because remember, it will dry off also as much as 50%. I just want to anchor the boots down at the moment. So that's. Now I can come back in and maybe just start to develop the boots just a bit more to give a few more clues. Painting time, I probably haven't spent more than maybe 7 minutes to get to this point here. Now I'm suggesting a bit of detail, but the painting is still loose. Again, still spontaneous. And this is part of the journey to take you to working towards semi-abstraction and then ultimately abstraction itself. So you've got to ride several horses at once, as it were, doing this. It's very easy to forget the intention and you just relapse back to painting in a very detailed way. So being relapsed is also important. As I'm always stressing, this is part of the process of developing a subject for a more finished painting. So you might do 6 preparatory pieces or more or whatever until you're happy with the final result. Then you take this information and do a more finished piece. I've got to give thought now to my next move. As I keep reminding you, I'm a great believer in working instinctively, following spontaneity. Do I do something else with the background? Taking chances. So if I take this yellow into the background, bring it a little bit into the subject itself. So I've changed the background and I'm quite happy to take it into the subject of the boots. Maybe a little bit into the foreground. Leave that. So I've just taken a hairdryer to it. I still want to darken down here this side. This is getting the least light. Same here. I'm going to stop in a moment because there's a danger of overpainting. And as you know, you can't do it with watercolour. So in a moment, I'm now considering my other what other options I have. And of course, it's indicating detail. So I'm going to stop. I think I've done enough on the boots themselves. Right. So if I stop at this point and consider my next move, which is, as I keep reminding you, suggesting the detail. I now want to indicate, as I keep reminding you, some detail, the laces, the eye holes and so forth. I'm going to keep things relatively easy. So I could be using Payne's Grey or black or whatever. I've decided to use ink. Remember, working the way that we are, semi-abstraction, there are no rules. The options are limitless. It's down to your imagination and creativity. So if I indicate, for example, the eyelets, boots, okay, I'm using the ink now. This will also have the advantage of making the mark making or the color much more prominent and distinctive, okay? So again, I'm not counting how many aisles there are in the actual boot, just trusting my own judgment. So as I keep saying, I'm using the ink now as opposed to watercolor. In the absence of ink, you could use, obviously, a fine liner pen. So there we go. Now I'm happy with that. As you can see, with instinctive moves, I say don't overdo it. It would be wrong for me to say don't do that because I just mentioned a few moments ago, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. You trust your instinct. So what I'm doing now, of course, as you can see, is I'm bringing something of the drawing back into the subject. but I don't want to overstate that, otherwise it defeats the object. And I may not take this much further. Essentially, it's doing what I want it to do, is to practice working or generating the idea a bit more regarding what I would do if I did this in another medium, oils, for example. Now I can indicate the laces. Obviously, the disadvantage of using ink is if you make a mistake, you've got to live with it. And then have the trailing down here, one trailing off here. Similar story here. Now, in time-wise, I don't think I've spent no more than about 9, possibly 10 minutes. I'm trying to resist doing too much with the ink. So I'm going to stop in a moment, but as an exercise in working towards semi-abstraction, I'm happy with this. I could do another one and be braver again. So as part of a process, if I just pause the recording for a moment. I think I reminded you, when practicing, keep the subject matter simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I'm just going to finish off by putting some touches of highlights on it using gouache, white gouache. I could have used masking fluid to mask off the white of the paper, then remove it at this point. If you don't have white gouache, you can use acrylic titanium white. So remember, you can use a variety of mediums. So here's the white gouache. Maybe I just put a highlight where the eyelets are. Come back here. Again, I'm just going where the instinct takes me, as you can see. I tend to go over the top a little bit with I like white gouache, just to add these highlights. But it's easy to get carried away. So I've got to stop in a moment. So that's the exercise completed. Do time limit yourself. In painting time, I'm not sure, but is it taking me 10 minutes? And that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, if you don't time limit yourself, you'll end up with a more finished painting. So I've just put the mount around it. I'm going to leave that at this point. Hopefully this will encourage you to have a go yourself. I could come back and tweak further, but I'll leave it on this occasion. I could deepen the shadow a little bit here. Go on, I've got my Peruvian green, which I rather like. It's a dense green. There we go. Now this is Peruvian green. It's gone a bit stronger there before, and then again here. No, I must leave it. Yes, do have a look with a mount around it. So thanks for watching. Have a go yourselves. Be relaxed about it. And don't put restrictions on yourself. Remember, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. And this is fun to do, as long as you can take a relaxed approach and don't get sucked into finishing off a photographic version. Okay, everyone. Bye for now.